This is the News at 1 from ITN with Leonard Parkin.
Hello, good afternoon. There's been a train crash near Manchester. At least 2 people are dead and 70 have been taken to hospital. The TUC leaders who monitor the miners' strike are meeting to see how to respond to the latest call for support from the miners after their decision to defy the law. Ken Gill, a white-collar union leader, says the TUC might itself have to risk being in contempt of court to help the miners. Meanwhile, the receiver appointed by the High Court has been making another attempt in Luxembourg to seize £4.5 million of NUM funds. In India, 1,000 people are thought to have died after the escape of poison gas. British Airways have been lighting up their new image, and we'll say hello to Hero Jr., the robot that'll be just one of the family. 2 people have been killed and at least 70 injured in a train crash near Manchester. The Liverpool to Scarborough Express had set off from Merseyside only minutes before the crash. It ploughed into the back of a freight train carrying gas and oil at Weast, a suburb of Salford. Part of the wreckage caught fire, and it took more than 100 firemen to get it under control. 30 ambulances took the injured to 3 hospitals in the area. Rob McLaughlin of Granada Television has just sent us this report.
The 10:05 Liverpool to Scarborough Express had set off only a few minutes before from Lime Street in Liverpool. 2 of the passenger wagons caught fire, and 150 firemen from all over the Manchester area were called to the scene. They helped look for victims. Latest reports say more than 70 people were hurt and 2 were killed. Their bodies may still be in the wreckage. The freight train was carrying central heating oil, and as yet nobody knows why the train ploughed into the back of it. Only yesterday in the Manchester area, a guard was killed in another train crash. Ambulances from all over the area, some 50 of them, carried the injured to 3 hospitals in the area: the Salford Royal Infirmary, Hope Hospital in Salford, and Park Hospital in Davyhulme. News at 1 will be giving details of telephone numbers for relatives to ring later in the programme. Now back to Leonard Parkin.
Well, at one of the 3 hospitals to which the injured have been taken, the Hope Hospital at Salford, is Mr. Frank Burns. Hello, Mr. Burns.
Hello.
Can you give us an idea of how seriously some of those people there are injured?
Yes, well, we've had 29 casualties at this hospital between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock. 4 of them are critically ill with internal injuries. 2 of these are in the operating theatres now. The other 2 were in the middle of assessing. Of the other 25, we've admitted 4 for observation, and 21 we have treated and will be discharging today.
Are you able to cope with your normal hospital service, or have you had to call in extra help?
Well, we've had to implement to the extent it was necessary our major incident plan, and if you do get 29 patients at once, things can be hectic, but we've coped very well in the circumstances.
Mr. Burns, thank you very much indeed for updating us.
Thank you.
Well, now let me give you some telephone numbers for relatives to ring for news of the injured. They're 061, that's if you're calling from outside Manchester.
The tanker train in Salford today. 2 people were killed and 77 were injured. A huge fireball engulfed the area. The tanker train left the Ellesmere Port area for Leeds at 9 this morning. The express left Liverpool an hour later. They collided just before 11. The 2 trains were on the same line near Weast, right alongside the M602 motorway spur. The express ploughed into the back of the tanker train, which exploded on fire.
There were 300 people on the passenger train travelling from Liverpool to Scarborough on a stretch of single eastbound track. The freight train was travelling on the same track in the same direction. The passenger train crashed into the last tanker of the freight train, and that tanker and the tanker in front of it exploded and burned. The freight train was pulling 14 tankers, each one carrying 50 tons of highly inflammable oil. There is some suggestion that the rear 2 tankers had become detached from the freight train. If that was the case, it undoubtedly prevented a major catastrophe. If more tankers had blown up, people in their houses immediately alongside would have caught the full force. As it was, there was still a danger of the heat igniting other tankers, and firemen pumped 500 gallons of foam onto the fire to damp it down and stop it spreading.
Just confusion, really. Everybody was just trying to get out, really, you know.
There wasn't much panic. It was just nobody knew what was happening, obviously. And then, you know, we all just tried to get off as quick as we could.
We just heard a big bang, and we were thrown across the carriage. And after that, the train just kept on going along. Heard more bangs until it came to a stop.
The line on which the crash happened is controlled by signals. A train passing the signal automatically turns it to red, and it is designed to stop a following train automatically if it passes on red. But the driver can override this. An investigation will try to determine what happened, and this is not the only crash it will look at. Only yesterday, and just a few miles from here, another passenger train, empty this time, collided with a goods train.
Manchester. A train driver was killed instantly and a passenger died later in hospital. Tonight, the driver was named as Edward Croxford from West Derby in Liverpool. The passenger who died was Samuel Kennedy from Moston in Manchester. The 10:05 passenger train from Liverpool to Scarborough crashed into the back of a train carrying heating oil. There was an explosion and a fire burning out the first two carriages of the passenger train.
Thousands of gallons of burning gas oil sprayed over the wreckage from 3 ruptured tanker wagons. 2 coaches of the passenger train caught fire and the flames spread rapidly through them. A fire brigade officer said they'd been incinerated, but most passengers had scrambled out before the flames took a firm hold. Some ran away up the embankment as thick black smoke swirled out from the blazing wreckage, sweeping across homes at the side of the track. 32 fire engines with 150 men were sent. The first crews were there within minutes, and 30 ambulances went with them, lining the nearby motorway. The intercity passenger train from Liverpool to Manchester, Leeds and Scarborough was minutes away from Manchester's Victoria station when it hit the rear of the stationary tanker train from the Stanlow Refinery at Ellesmere Port, which was bound for Leeds. The 14 tankers were each carrying 10,000 gallons of gas oil. As the oil leaked from the tanks, people in 200 houses were told to leave their homes in case of an explosion. Foam was sprayed over the wreckage as firemen tried to lever their way into the cab where the driver was trapped. Danny Hughes was one of the injured taken to hospital in Salford. His girlfriend described what she remembered of the crash.
Just flames and smoke and being thrown from across the chair, across the table, onto the floor, and then just panic really, trying to get out of the train, trying to open the door, I couldn't open it. So Danny opened the door for us. Somebody had tried.
Failure may have been the reason for the crash between an oil tanker train and a passenger express. The tanker train had left Ellesmere Port for Leeds at 9 this morning. The passenger express left Liverpool an hour later, and they crashed just before 11 o'clock. The 2 trains are on the same line near Weast, right alongside the M602 motorway spur. The express ploughed into the back of the tanker train, which exploded.
Both trains were travelling on the same piece of track in the same direction. The driver of the freight train had stopped at a signal and had just started his train moving again when the passenger train ploughed into the back of it. The freight train was pulling 14 tankers, each one carrying 50 tons of petroleum fluid. The rear 3 tankers immediately exploded and 15,000 gallons of oil burst into flames. They engulfed the front 2 carriages of the passenger train. It's thought there may still be bodies in those front 2 carriages, and forensic scientists are tonight sifting through the ashes. A nurse was just leaving for work when she heard the explosion.
The house shook, literally shook, and I heard the train movement, so I knew then there'd been a crash. So I just pulled some jeans on, a t-shirt and flew out.
When you got down there, what kind of scene confronted you?
People were coming out the carriages, and the top 2 carriages was full of smoke, and then just fire. There was a fire.
2 factors saved the crash from being a major catastrophe. At the last station, the front 2 carriages of the passenger train had overhung the platform, so very few people had got into them. Secondly, it's thought the rear 3 tankers of the freight train had become detached from the train, saving the other tankers from the fire. If these 2 had blown up, people in their houses immediately alongside would have caught the full force. As it was, there was still a danger the heat might reach the other tankers, and firemen pumped 500 gallons of foam onto the fire. There will be an investigation into this, the 6th serious train crash in Britain since June, and this will not be the only crash it will look into. Only yesterday, and just a few miles from here, another passenger train, empty this time, collided with a goods train. In that crash, a guard was killed and a driver injured. John Suchet, News at 10 in Manchester.